This is a guide to the North Carolina State Firemen's Association online roster management program. This resource can be reached from www.ncsfa.com by clicking on the roster links there, or, as shown here, from members.ncsfa.com. Click on the rosters link in the navigation bar and sign in using the credentials provided by the NCSFA. If you do not have those credentials, you can use the credential recovery tools shown here. Those depend on knowing either your username or the mailbox associated with the department account. Roster management is usually done by the department chiefs. This screen shows the display as it appears during the year-end roster and certification period. Outside of that period, these buttons, Save Final and Mark All Certified, are not displayed, and the training certification checkbox is not editable and grayed out. On this page, you can not only see the current year's information, you can view past year's information, but you can't edit it. You can see that the displays are grayed out and locked. If you see any problems with the information from past year's certification, please contact the NCSFA. It is important to be aware that as you make changes on the main screen, training, certification, member type, etc., none of those changes are actually written to the database unless you click one of the Save buttons. Clicking on the Save Final button writes the changes to the database and brings you to another screen showing the legal language that you will be attesting to by certifying this roster. A new aspect of the roster management this year is that retired and life members can be marked as either active or inactive. Active means that they are pursuing their 36 hours of annual training in order to be eligible for benefits. In this case, Edward P. Brinson ended active service on 6/11 and received certification for that part of the year. This can be seen in the member details, where his certification for 2014 started on January 1st and ended on June 6th, so he received 6 months of pension eligibility. To illustrate the Mark All Certified on Roster button, I'm going to remove the certification for these 3 members. Tom Collins and Rich David would be automatically eligible for certification because of their volunteer status. As it stands right now, Edward Brinson is not automatically eligible because he is retired but inactive. So clicking on this button will restore the certification for Tom Collins and Rich David, but not for Edward Brinson. If desired, that certification can be added back manually. Social Security numbers are required for benefit eligibility. If there are any invalid Social Security numbers on your roster, this SSN Issues button will be displayed. Clicking on it takes you to a list where you can correct those issues. SSNs should be entered as digits only. Invalid entries will show an error message, and invalid entries will not be saved. If you go back to the roster without clicking Save Changes, your edits will not be recorded. Add Member. The first step in adding a member is to give some basic biographical information so that the system can check for existing records that might match in order to maintain consistency. In this case, you can see a number of possibly matching records, including someone from Asheville whose data would be copied, someone with no department assignment whose data would be used, and 2 members of the department we're looking at, And if you click Use this data, it will take you directly to their record and not add a new record. When a new member record is created, if it's brand new, the department information is used for the address and the email. It is best to change those to the actual individual's address and email information. You will have to enter the Social Security number. If you make errors in entry, those must be corrected before the data can be saved. Note that you only need to enter the zip code. The system takes care of determining the correct city, state, and county for that zip code. You can move through the pages using the navigation controls, one at a time, or go to the first, or go to the last, or use the indexed drop-down list. You can change the number of records per page. The more records you show per page, the slower it will be to load, and some of the operations on the page will be slower, but of course you'll be able to see more records at once. The department breakdown shows once again these new categories of active and inactive. Here is a life active count and a retired inactive count. As you work through making changes in your roster in the main section, you will see that some changes require the record to reload so that you are shown only the necessary and required fields to be edited. For example, if I change this volunteer to a life member, the system assumes they are no longer active and requires an end of active service date. If I change this volunteer to retired, the system once again assumes they are inactive, but it is possible for a retired member to stay on as active in order to maintain line of duty death benefits, for example. Remember also that as you make those changes, none of them are written to the database until you click the Save Changes button. Before clicking the Save Final for the Year button, it is a good precaution to print and save your roster. This printed format can be saved as a PDF, and that is what is recommended. Printing from the PDF is recommended. This print button is not functional, but could not be removed. Save the PDF to your desired location. And you can open it from there and print from there. In this report, you can see once again the new member types: retired inactive, retired active, etc. To go back to the roster page, click the Rosters link in the navigation bar. When you click on Save Final, you are presented with the legal language to which you will be attesting, and a warning if there are Social Security number issues on your roster. You can go back to the Social Security number issues page from here. You can go back to the rosters page from here. When you click on I certify this roster, your roster and the certifications for the current year are locked. The roster will stay locked until after January 17th, roughly, depending on the calendar. It is after January 17th that you will make changes that will be reflected in your bill for the following year. So you can see here are the certifications from the current year locked. Here is the current roster locked, and that is the current roster for 2015. Note also the following that are available on this page. You can pay your dues online. You can get back to the rosters in the usual way. You can get back to this video and to a PDF guide for the roster management. If you need to change information about your department name, email address, that kind of thing, use the My Account link. Again, use the rosters link to get back to the rosters main page. This is another way to get to the My Account page. It's a good precaution when you're done to sign out. If you leave your session inactive for a lengthy amount of time, it is possible that parts of it will become non-functional and that you will need to close your browser and log back in. Testers have reported that this is best used in Chrome and Firefox, although there has been extensive testing in Internet Explorer 11 without issues on some sites. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the NCSFA. You can see the phone number and an email address here on the members.ncsfa.com page. Thank you,